Me and My Health Up. I'm your host, Anthony Hartcher, a nutritionist and a lifestyle medicine specialist and the Journey Joyful Mentor. So, the Joyful Journey Mentor, I meant to say, I had a bit around the other way. So, this episode is both for the Me and My Health Up listeners as well as the Joyful Mate listeners, hence probably why I'm a bit tongue twisted to start the episode. But it's applicable to both. So, for those that don't know, on either, if you're listening to one platform or the other, I've got two podcasts. Yes, I've got the Health Up podcast, which is all about holistic health. And I've got the Joyful Mate podcast, which is about mental health, joy, happiness, and fulfillment. So the two podcasts, one is serving you holistically, which is the Health Up podcast, and the other podcast is the Joyful Mate, which is serving you mentally to help you thrive. So, but mind you, they both help you thrive. And the purpose of both podcasts is to enhance and enlighten your well-being. And I'll be doing that today because we're talking about the law of contrast, how contrasts shape our perceptions. So, how the degree of opposites shape our perception of one or the other. And so, what do I mean by this? Okay, so this is applied to so many fields. It's applied to psychology, it's applied to design, it's applied to art, and it's essentially saying that two objects side by side, or could be two events placed side by side, that are opposite, the degree at which their difference will distort our perception. So, what do I mean by that? So, the larger the degree of contrast between the two objects or events will shape our perceptions. And so, think about a a bright object on a really dark surface. It appears brighter. And also, for example, a small object against a very, very, very large object. The smaller object will appear even smaller. And so, how does this relate? Well, it relates to how we perceive things through our senses. And our senses require a contrast in order for us to perceive something. So, if you were in a completely dark room with no light, you won't see anything. And same if you're in a completely white room with whiteness and no darkness, you would see nothing. You'd be blinded, right? You would see nothing on either side, whether it be completely dark or completely white, you'd see nothing. What helps us to see is if there's a contrast in the room. So, a completely dark room with an illuminated pixel, we will be able to see something. Same as in a light room with an element of dark, we can see the contrast. And so this applies to hearing as well. So if we have the same frequency going into both ears, we don't hear anything, nothing. But if we have a different frequency going into one ear compared to the other, we hear based on the contrast of frequency or the differences between the frequencies. And so this also applies to how we perceive events, for example. So, depending upon our upbringing and our experiences, we will have a baseline to of an understanding of what happens after something or an event, or a level of judgment based on an event, based on our upbringing. So, for example, if our parents said, "Oh, like going out in the rain is bad because you'll get a cold," then we have an association with rain, bad, and cold, right? So that we then take that through our, I guess, our life journey, and therefore we associate sun, dry as healthy and happiness, whereas we then have this negative association with wet, dry, and raining conditions, and associated with ill health. But in actual fact, both conditions serve our health, and they serve it in different ways, and we need both. And so, how like, why are you listening to this? Because the reason why I'm sharing this is to help you control your emotions, or help you get governance over your emotions, to help you manage your emotions. So, for example, if we have an understanding that, like, I was thinking of this example today. So driving along in a car, you've got this nice safe distance, or what you perceive as a safe distance between you and the car in front of you, and then a car cuts you off, and that violates that safe distance. Well, that safe distance is going to be depending on what your baseline is. And so if your baseline is, I didn't get run off the road and I didn't have an accident, then if someone just sort of merged in, you're not going to have an issue with it. But if your baseline is that I must keep this 5 second rule or whatever it is, 3 second rule between me and the car in front of me, and that car pulls in to that gap, then you're going to perceive that as a massive violation, and probably perceive it as the same as the person that could have got run off the road. And so again, it's because we have this distortion of the contrast, and it's because our baseline is one side, and we want to make sure the world conforms to that one-sided thinking. So like, for example, people should always be nice, right? If we've been brought up like that people should always be nice, when we perceive someone challenging us, we then perceive them as mean and nasty, and we don't like it, right? And we can not like them just because they're challenging our values or challenging our beliefs. And we have been brought up thinking that nice people will always support your values and support your beliefs. But that fantasy will get dissolved fairly quickly as you go along in life, because you will start to run into people that have opposite beliefs and opposite values. And so the challenge there is in order to get governance over our emotions and to be able to manage our behavior and to have emotional intelligence, we need to realize that there's two sides, and the two sides are balanced. They're not labeled, and well, they're only labeled if we label them as good or bad. But in actual fact, they're just what they are, right? It is what it is. And we we can continue this, like, it is what it is, based on seeing both sides of it, seeing that yes, it's got an upside and a downside, but it's completely balanced. It's like wet weather has an upside and a downside, dry weather has an upside and a downside. And what we want to do is continually work on ourselves and how we see the world and see others, to balance our perceptions, to integrate them, so we see the whole picture. We feel at one. We feel totally interconnected with the other person, because we understand that they have a different set of priorities, different values, but that's who they are. And we develop a level of respect through being curious about understanding their beliefs and values and how they operate. Others, versus judging them and seeing them as there's this massive contrast between my values and beliefs and their values and beliefs, and that gets me emotional, and that then I distort that, and then I carry out and carry on crazily with bad behavior, or I guess inappropriate behavior, that they're wrong and I'm right. And this is how war develops, this is how conflict develops, is that one side doesn't understand the other sides, and is not wanting to, or be curious enough and be open enough to understanding the other side. When we understand the other side, and we can better work together, we can better understand how we can fulfill each other's needs, although we may have differing beliefs and values. But that's respecting everyone, that they're unique and different, and that ultimately what we don't like in them is something that we don't like in ourselves, and we're projecting it onto them. So in order to integrate yourself and feel whole with self, we need to see that what we're upset about in someone else is something that we're not owning in ourselves. And we need to see the upside of what we're not owning in ourselves, because we put shame and guilt on that particular trait or action or inaction. So, in order to really utilize and master this law of contrast, we need to understand that's how we perceive the world, and that's fine, but we don't want to be judging it and labeling it as good or bad. We need to see it as it is, and everything has an upside and a downside, no matter what happens to us, or what someone does to us, whatever, or what the weather does to us, or how someone makes us feel, or whatever. It's all based on our perceptions, and we distort them based on our view of how different they are to us. But if we seek to become similar and integrated, and or at least understanding that we do have differences and that there's both up and downs of both sides of the differences, then it's completely whole, and we can see the benefit of them doing it their way and the benefit of me doing it my way, and it's what serves you that gives you the most advantages over disadvantages will move you forward. So how does this, I guess, how can we apply this law of contrast to health, for example? So it applies really well in a sense that it really encourages intermittent living. So if we're consistently doing the same routine and not changing things, then we become complacent and we get bored, and then we're looking for, I guess, quick fixes in terms of making us feel better. But what I've discovered with health is if we have absences, then we look forward to things, right? So bring in intermittent fasting, for example. If we are deliberately fasting for a period of time, we're looking forward to eating, and we get excited and we create this, I've got something to look forward to, and it's this time I'm going to eat this or something like that. And so and it's the same with like hot and cold showers, for example. So having like warm showers all the time, we get complacent, and we lose the gratitude for the warmth of the shower until we have the absence of it. And so it's good to introduce the absence in order to appreciate what you have. And so this can be applied to all aspects of life. And so you can, you know, abstain for doing something you enjoy for a period of time, and then you'll look forward to it even more when you do it. Okay. And it sort of breaks up the boredom and and the complacency that we can get with life. And we're looking for that spice and that sort of surge. And so, like, the dopamine will increase as you move towards what you're looking forward to. So, for example, when I'm intermittent fasting, I'm looking forward to that next meal. I'm telling you what, and that dopamine is just building and building, and I just and then it happens and it feels so good. And so I make a regular practice of doing intermittent fasting. I make a regular practice of having cold showers or having deliberate cold exposure. So I look forward to warmth and I appreciate it more. And I can also appreciate the benefits of being cold. I understand what that's doing for my body. And so everything is serving me, and I'm not doing too much of one thing consistently, and I'm shaking it up, mixing it up enough to get some nice spice and some nice flow, and have something to look forward to. So that's how I apply it to health. In terms of how I apply it to my mindset, is that if something is irritating me or making me feel not so great, I then ask myself, how is it serving me? How is it benefiting me? And then I can see, I start to see the benefits, and then my emotions calm down over it. And so over time, I've been doing this with all my emotions, and even elation. Like, how is me being elated not serving me? Well, you can get very complacent too, and you can stop doing the things that got you to that peak or that great moment. And so, therefore, you can get lost and go and do the complete opposite. And so, it is really, really important that we, you know, control the extremes of our emotions, or have some governance over the extremes of the emotions to avoid us falling off the wagon or overreacting or underreacting. And so we really want to look at this wholeness in life and this integration of life. And the more we can feel at one with each other and at one with everything, then the more we feel whole and complete, and a real purposeful life, and a real life of contribution. So it requires constant work. It's not something that you just stop doing. It's something that you need to keep applying, because you got to remember that over time we got shaped, and our beliefs and values got shaped by the people we looked up to. And then we start to realize that there's an other side to what we admired. And when we start experiencing that in the world, we start to feel that the world's working against me, but it's not. It's helping you understand the other side and helping you become more integrated. So I'm going to have a part two of this series on this law of contrast and how you can master the law of contrast to your benefit and control your emotions and govern your emotions and more have, I guess, better uh, and also use it in your favor in terms of having, things to look forward to and really um, just bring the spice back into your life. Really, that's what I find with the intermittent living, like doing without and then having, and then doing without and then having, and it brings more gratitude and it brings the understanding of the benefits of both sides and understanding the downside of both sides as well. And so you get this more better appreciation for things as they are and for people as they are, as opposed to judgment and labels of good and bad. So I'm just wrapping up this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Please share and share it with others that you believe that could benefit from hearing this, and also like the episode and follow me on these platforms so that you can continue to get this great information. And until next time, continue to health up and continue to thrive by looking to integrate more into the world and feel at one with the world, as opposed to feel like the world's working against you or people are against you. In actual fact, they're not. They're helping you to become more integrated and more whole and to love yourself ultimately. So thanks for listening, and continue to health up and continue to thrive. Thank you.